Now turn to our Haftarah. And our Haftarah in some ways is really just a perfect follow-up to this week's Torah portion. Because if our Torah portion is clinical in its treatment of these diseases, our Haftarah really gives us the human aspect of what happens when people are isolated from the rest of the community. It also happens to be just a great story. So I hope we all enjoyed reading it. But when we think about what do we learn from this Haftarah about the experience of being isolated from the community? And the very first thing that we learn in our very first verse is that sometimes the people who are separated out from the community come together in their own community. In our first verse, we've got 4 lepers outside the gates of the city. Now, it happens that the city is under siege. It happens that this is a wartime. And so, in fact, it turns out that these 4 lepers end up having some tactical advantage to the people inside the gates because of the intelligence they're able to bring. But they don't necessarily initially see themselves as particularly loyal to the people of the city. They've been cast out. They discover that the Aramean camp has been abandoned, and their first reaction is not to tell the people of the city. That's their second reaction. But their first reaction is to take what they can. They go into a tent, they eat and drink, they carry off some silver and gold and clothing, and they bury it. And then they say, oh, you know what? If we don't tell the people of the city, we're going to be in trouble. Let's go tell them. So they are of the city, but they're not of the city. And as we think about what is the experience of being isolated, they really do feel like they're separate. Their loyalties are a little different because they are not included in the city right now. And so I think that's something else to remember. In the Parsha, there may be a reintegration ritual, but these people haven't yet been reintegrated. And that experience of being cast out can leave a mark. Well, the Haftarah begins on page, and I guess I'll say, I think we as a community have worked very hard to avoid that mark for all of us, to try and maintain a sense of connection as we've been physically separated. But that's something that we can't take for granted at all in this experience.